All right. Ready for a deep dive into a really unsettling case?
Always.
Today, we're going to be looking at Philip Joseph Hughes Jr., the East Bay Strangler.
Right.
He's still in prison, actually,
Right.
deemed too dangerous for parole,
Mm.
even after all these years.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to unpack why. Why does this case continue to fascinate people
Right.
and disturb, obviously?
Going beyond the headlines to kind of understand, like, what makes it unique?
Yeah.
Our main source for this deep dive is a Wikipedia article about Hughes,
Okay.
and it lays out the facts, the chilling facts of his crimes.
Right.
But it leaves us with some pretty intriguing questions
Yeah.
about his motivations and the role of his ex-wife in all this.
Mm.
What immediately jumps out at you about this case?
Well, I mean, what immediately jumps out is how little we know about Hughes's early life.
Yeah.
The article, it just gives us his birth year, like 1947, 1948.
It's like he just kind of emerges from a void already fully formed as this terrifying figure?
That's a great observation. It makes you wonder, in your experience with serial killer profiles,
Yeah.
how often do we see this lack of background information?
It's not uncommon
Yeah.
to encounter gaps,
Right.
but in a case as severe as this one, it's like the lack of a developmental history. It makes it really hard to like piece together the potential contributing factors.
Right.
Like, did he show signs of disturbing behavior as a kid?
Yeah.
Were there any red flags that might have hinted at, like, the darkness to come?
Right.
And without that context, I mean, it's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're left with these horrifying facts of his crimes, starting with his first known victim, Maureen Field.
Right.
She was just 19 years old, working the late shift at Kmart.
Yeah, and her disappearance is shrouded in this unsettling mystery.
Right.
Her father went to pick her up from work,
Yeah.
only to find that she had left early.
Right.
And then 2 days later, the family receives this bone-chilling anonymous phone call.
Yeah.
A man simply says, "I'm calling about your daughter. She's dead, and I killed her." And then silence.
Wow. I can't even imagine the terror that must have instilled in her family.
Yeah.
Was that type of contact, like from the killer,
Yeah.
need to kind of make his presence known? Is that something you see often in these types of cases?
It's not unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
Some killers, especially those who derive, pleasure from the suffering they inflict, they feel compelled to taunt the families of their victims.
Right.
It's a twisted way to assert control even after the crime has been committed.
Yeah.
But in this case, the caller never contacted the family again,
Oh, wow.
which adds another layer of peculiarity. Right?
Almost like a twisted game he was playing.
Yeah.
Sadly, Maureen's body wasn't found for months. They discovered her remains along Morgan Territory Road, badly decomposed. And then the violence escalated with the abduction and murder of 15-year-old Lisa Beery.
Yeah, this crime, it demonstrates this chilling level of premeditation.
Right.
Hughes and his wife at the time, Suzanne Perrin,
Right.
they abducted Lisa at knife point while she was hitchhiking.
Right.
Instead of attacking her immediately,
Yeah.
they took her to a house in Oakland,
Wow.
forced her into the basement,
Wow.
and then carried out these horrific acts.
God, it's absolutely horrifying to think about taking her to a secondary location like that. What does that tell us about the nature of this crime?
Well, taking a victim to a separate location, that's a hallmark of organized serial killers.
Right.
It signifies a degree of planning and control that sets them apart from like more impulsive offenders.
Right.
It suggests that this wasn't just a spur of the moment act of violence,
Right.
but a carefully considered plan. Allowing them to exert power over their victim
Right.
and carry out the crime with less fear of being interrupted.
It's truly disturbing. Tragically, Lisa's body wasn't found for 5 years.
Yeah.
Hidden in a shallow grave in Moraga.
Right.
And then we come to the case of Letitia Faggett,
Yeah.
whose disappearance seems to have prompted a more immediate concern for her safety.
Yes. Unlike the previous cases where there was a delay in realizing that something was wrong,
Right.
Letitia's coworkers, they requested a welfare check when she didn't show up for work.
Wow.
Sadly, their concern was justified. She was later found strangled with a severe head injury. What stands out to you about this case compared to the others?
Well, it seems like maybe Letitia was targeted more deliberately,
Right.
you know? Her coworkers knowing something was off right away suggests like maybe a different level of connection.
Yeah.
Perhaps she knew Hughes or he had been watching her for a while. It makes you wonder if this indicates like a shift in his modus operandi, like a move towards a more calculated approach.
That's a very astute observation, I think. The circumstances surrounding Letitia's disappearance, they do raise the possibility that Hughes's MO was evolving.
Right.
Perhaps he was becoming bolder, or
Right.
maybe there was something specific about Letitia that made her a target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the woman who ultimately played a pivotal role in Hughes's arrest.
Yeah.
His ex-wife, Suzanne Perrin.
Right.
Her involvement in all of this is incredibly complex
Hmm.
and unsettling.
Perrin's role in this saga is it's undeniably one of the most intriguing and disturbing aspects.
Yeah.
She wasn't just a passive bystander,
Right.
but she actively participated in the crimes.
Right.
She helped Hughes choose victims, was present during the assaults, and even took part in disposing of the bodies. You know, the big question is, was she a manipulator who exerted control over Hughes?
Right.
Was she a victim of coercion herself?
Right.
Or something in between?
Right.
You know?
It's a question that begs further exploration.
Yeah.
She was granted immunity for testifying against Hughes,
Right.
despite her deep involvement.
Yeah.
That level of participation, you know, a woman so entangled in the violence.
Yeah.
How often do you see that in serial killer cases?
Well, while there have been, cases of female accomplices to serial killers,
Right.
Perrin's level of active participation, like in the selection,
Yeah.
abduction, and even the killing of the victims,
Right.
is far less common.
Right.
Yeah, it challenges our preconceived notions of gender roles in violent crime.
Yeah.
And compels us to examine these complex dynamics that can exist between, a killer and their partner in crime.
It's definitely a chilling reminder that evil can wear many faces and defy easy categorization.
Yeah.
Now to delve into the psychological underpinnings of this case.
Yeah.
During Hughes's trial, a psychiatrist named Dr. Hugh Winnig stated that Hughes had an actual need to kill someone and have sex with them after they were dead.
Chilling words indeed. And what's particularly significant about Dr. Winnig's statement
Yeah.
is that it points toward a very specific and disturbing psychological profile.
Yeah.
This isn't simply about power or control.
Right.
It speaks to a deeply ingrained, almost compulsive drive related to necrophilia.
Right.
How does that compare to the psychological profiles of other serial killers you studied?
It certainly feels darker, more deeply disturbing, even compared to some of the other horrific cases we've delved into.
Yeah.
And remember, this was back in the 80s,
Right.
when our understanding of these psychological nuances was still evolving.
Absolutely. This case, with its shocking details,
Yeah.
and the insights provided by experts like Dr. Winnig,
Yeah.
likely contributed to the ongoing development of our understanding of the intricate and often perplexing motivations driving serial killers.
Hughes was ultimately found guilty of 3 murders and sentenced to life in prison.
Right.
But his story and the questions surrounding it don't end there.
Right.
He's been denied parole multiple times.
Yeah.
And in 2015, he began voluntarily waiving his right to those hearings.
That's a fascinating development.
Yeah.
And one that raises a whole new set of questions.
Yeah.
Is it a sign of remorse?
Yeah.
And acceptance of his fate?
Yeah.
Or simply a calculated tactic to avoid the scrutiny of a parole board?
Right.
It's hard to say for sure without delving deeper into his current psychological state.
He agreed not to request another parole hearing until 2025.
Okay.
So given the severity of his crimes,
Yeah.
the disturbing nature of his psychological profile,
Right.
and his repeated denials,
Yeah.
do you think there's any chance he'll ever walk free?
I mean, while it's impossible to predict the future with certainty,
Right.
the likelihood of Philip Joseph Hughes Jr.
Yeah.
ever being released back into society is incredibly slim.
Right.
The nature of his crimes, the lack of demonstrable rehabilitation,
Right.
and the ongoing concern for public safety all point towards a future where where he remains incarcerated.
Right.
However, the fact that he continues to waive his parole hearings rather than fighting for release
Yeah.
adds another layer of complexity to his story.
It's a reminder that even within the confines of a prison cell,
Yeah,
the human psyche remains a labyrinth of motives and contradictions.
absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground,
Mm.
explored the chilling details of Hughes' crimes,
Yeah,
the disturbing role of his ex-wife, and the ongoing debate over his suitability for parole.
right.
But there's still so much to unpack,
Yeah.
and we'll continue our deep dive into this case right after the break.
You know what strikes me as particularly poignant in this case is the profound impact on the victims' families.
Yeah.
Imagine like years of agonizing uncertainty,
Yeah.
the desperate search for answers,
Right.
and the pain of never truly getting closure.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreaking reminder of the ripple effects of violent crime
Right.
that extend far beyond the immediate victims.
It's a sobering thought, and it brings us back to that question of Hughes's early life.
Yeah.
With the limited information we have, I can't help but wonder, were there any missed opportunities for intervention?
Yeah.
Could something have been done?
Right.
Were there signs that could have been recognized?
Yeah.
Perhaps preventing this tragedy from unfolding?
That's the question that haunts so many of these cases.
Yeah.
If we had a more complete picture
Yeah.
of Hughes's childhood,
Right.
his development,
Right.
his psychological state
Yeah.
before the murders,
Right.
maybe, just maybe, we could identify some red flags that might have led to intervention.
Right.
It's impossible to say for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a question worth exploring.
Right. Were there any instances of animal cruelty?
Yeah.
Social isolation, or fascination with violence.
Right.
Those are often cited as potential warning signs,
Right.
but they're not always easy to recognize or act upon.
Exactly. Early warning signs, they can be subtle,
Right.
easily missed,
Yeah. Yeah.
or even dismissed,
Yeah.
And of course, this raises a broader question about the role of societal factors in shaping individuals capable of such violence.
Right.
Poverty, exposure to violence,
Yeah.
lack of access to mental health resources. All of these can create like a breeding ground for deeply troubled individuals.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah.
But it feels like we have a responsibility to at least try to understand those factors, not just to punish the perpetrators after the fact,
Yeah.
but to hopefully prevent future tragedies.
Absolutely. Prevention and early intervention, they're crucial.
Yeah.
But it requires a multifaceted approach.
Right.
A societal willingness to address those underlying issues that contribute to violence.
It's a heavy topic, but it's a conversation we need to have.
Yeah, I agree.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the unsettling world of Philip Joseph Hughes Jr.,
Yeah.
the East Bay Strangler, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought. Given how little we know about his past, is there anything society could have done differently?
Right.
Either to prevent someone like Hughes from emerging, or to intervene before his violent tendencies escalated? And what are the societal factors that might contribute to someone becoming capable of such horrific acts?
Those are important questions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are no easy answers.
Right.
It's a challenge to identify and address the complex interplay of individual psychology,
Yeah.
societal influences,
Yeah.
and missed opportunities
Right.
that can lead to such tragic outcomes.
Right.
This case serves as a stark reminder that even amidst the advancements in criminal profiling
Yeah.
and our understanding of the criminal mind,
Yeah.
there's still so much we don't know.
It's also a reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places.
Right.
Hughes was a seemingly ordinary man, a janitor blending into the fabric of society. It's a chilling thought that someone capable of such horrific acts could live among us undetected
Yeah.
until their darkness spills out into the world.
Precisely. And while it's tempting to categorize individuals like Hughes as simply evil or monsters,
Yeah.
it's crucial to remember that the reality is far more nuanced.
Right.
Reducing these complex cases to simple labels,
Right.
it doesn't help us understand the the underlying factors that contribute to violence.
Right. It's not about excusing their actions, but rather acknowledging the complexity of the human psyche
Yes.
and recognizing that the path to such darkness is rarely straightforward.
Right.
It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature,
Yeah.
the potential for both good and evil that resides within us all.
Absolutely. While we may never fully comprehend what drives someone to commit such heinous acts,
Yeah.
cases like this underscore the importance of vigilance,
Right.
awareness,
Yeah.
and supporting those who work tirelessly to prevent and address violence in all its forms.
Well said, and I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unsettling world of Philip Joseph Hughes Jr., the East Bay Strangler.
It was my pleasure.
We hope this exploration has prompted some critical thinking about the complexities of crime,
Yeah,
punishment, and the human condition.
absolutely.
If this case has piqued your interest in learning more about serial killers,
Yeah,
criminal psychology, or the criminal justice system,
right.
we encourage you to check out the resources we've linked in the show notes.
There's a wealth of information available.
Yeah.
And continued learning and dialogue are essential in building a safer and more informed society.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. Given how little we know about his past, is there anything society could have done differently?
Right.
Either to prevent someone like Hughes from emerging,
Yeah.
or to intervene before his violent tendencies escalated?
Right.
And what are the societal factors that might contribute to someone becoming capable of such horrific acts?
Those are important questions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are no easy answers.
Right.
It's a challenge to identify and address the complex interplay of individual psychology, societal influences, and missed opportunities that can lead to such tragic outcomes. This case, it serves as a stark reminder that even amidst the advancements in criminal profiling and our understanding of the criminal mind, there's still so much we don't know.
It's also a reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
Hughes was a seemingly ordinary man, a janitor, blending into the fabric of society. It's a chilling thought that someone capable of such horrific acts could live among us undetected until their darkness spills out into the world.
Precisely. And while it's tempting to categorize individuals like Hughes as simply evil or monsters,
Yeah.
it's crucial to remember that the reality is far more nuanced.
Right.
Reducing these complex cases to simple labels, it doesn't help us understand the underlying factors that contribute to violence.
Right. It's not about excusing their actions, but rather acknowledging the complexity of the human psyche
Yeah.
and recognizing that the path to such darkness is rarely straightforward.
Right.
You know, it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature, the potential for both good and evil that resides within us all.
Absolutely. And while we may never fully comprehend what drives someone to commit such heinous acts, cases like this underscore the importance of vigilance, awareness, and supporting those who work tirelessly to prevent and address violence in all its forms.
Well said. I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unsettling world of Philip Joseph Hughes Jr., the East Bay Strangler. We hope this exploration has prompted some critical thinking about the complexities of crime, punishment, and the human condition.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.